I helped this tennis player go from no pronation on her serve to fully pronating just like the pros in less than 30 minutes. Today I'm going to show you exactly how I did it step by step so you can hit the biggest serves of your life. All high-level tennis players pronate on all of their serves because it's a critical part of generating racket head speed. And I want to unpack what that means exactly because there are a lot of misconceptions and a lot of misunderstandings around this topic of pronation. And what pronation does is it releases a stretch that's generated here during the racket drop. To create this big drop of the racket, Novak and all other high-level players are doing two things. They're stretching their shoulder backwards, and they're also turning their hand inwards. And the combination of those two things is what gets the racket down low and also gets the racket on edge. And by on edge, I mean as he starts to unwind and swing upwards, it is the frame of the racket that's leading and going up first, not the strings of the racket. Let me help you visualize this really quick. My hands right now are just down flat against the side of my legs. This is a neutral hand position right here. And high-level tennis players, when they go into their trophy pose, are doing two things. I'm going to keep my hand in a neutral position here and bring my arm out parallel to my chest. So thing number one that Novak is doing to get in this position is his shoulder stretches back, but then also he has supinated or turned his hand and his forearm inward. That's what's creating this edge position down in the bottom of his racket drop. Now, if he were to just keep this supinated position, supinated means hands turning upwards, pronated means hands turning inwards. And again, this is a neutral position, just hands facing towards the body. So this is a backward stretch of the shoulder, and it's an inward turn of the hand to reach this position. And so if Novak left his hand turned in and he kept unwinding and swinging up towards the ball, eventually the frame would just hit into the ball and he would just like hatchet throw the racket right into the ball. He would never hit the strings. So from this position that Novak is in right now to this position to simply turn the racket and meet the ball, he has already pronated. But because of all of this release of energy from the edge position to the contact position, the racket wants to continue rotating out in this direction. So now the strings are facing out to the side. Everybody always focuses on this part. Oh, look, my hand is facing towards the side. But pronation actually begins way back here before the hit. And there's essentially a 180-degree turn or release of the hand and the forearm and the shoulder. And so it's a full, big snap of the entire arm. This is what people refer to as the racket snap, but it's not from the wrist going forwards. It's the whole arm unwinding from initially the strings facing to the left, and then at contact, the strings facing towards the box. And then after contact, now the strings are facing out to the right. So here's the way my student's serve was as she came in to work with me. This is before we did any drills or any training together or any analysis. She's doing an incredible job of creating this stretch back here, just like Novak was. She's stretching her shoulder back. She's turning her hand in. She has a great edge position here with the racket. The frame is going first up towards the point of contact. And she's unwinding the racket to face the strings towards the box. But then all of that energy wants to continue. She's got 90 degrees of unwinding of that stretch into the point of contact, and now that momentum wants to continue out to the right. But it doesn't. She locks down the angle of the racket and actually turns the racket back in again. So she's reversing that release of her hand and her forearm and her shoulder and the racket face. All of that twisting and unwinding has been stopped, and then she's actually turning her hand in the other way again. And the only way to make that happen is through a lot of muscling and tightness and tension. Watch her motion in full speed, and especially through the point of contact. You see how her arm just kind of looks really rigid and stiff and tight? That's inhibiting the acceleration of the racket head. It's keeping her acceleration artificially low, even though she's doing such an incredible job of building all this stretch and starting the process of releasing it. She just isn't letting it fully unwind. Here's what this looks like from a side angle so you can really visualize this. As Carlos starts to unwind and turn up towards the ball, this is that double stretch we were talking about. His shoulder is stretching back. His hand has turned in, so his palm is facing towards his ear, the side of his head. And so this is that edge position. See how the frame of the racket is coming upwards first and leading the way. And so he has to pronate before contact in order to just look at the ball's right here. This is a split second before contact, and right now the edge of his racket is going to chop the ball if he doesn't unwind his hand. And so he does unwind it, and now the strings are facing towards his target. And shortly after contact, watch how now his racket's momentum is going to continue in that direction, and now the strings are facing towards the side, right towards the camera. Compare that with my student from the side. Again, I shot this before we did any explanation or any analysis. This could be a 4 or 5 level serve. My student here is a 3-5 player. She started relatively recently. Incredible mechanics here, very good athlete. And she achieves that same stretch position that Carlos did really effectively. Great stretch back with her shoulder. She's turned her hand in towards her ear, so she's created this edge position, and she's holding it right up until it's time to hit the ball. And then she's going to unwind the racket, and now the strings are facing the box. But instead of continuing that momentum and that release out past contact, the strings of her racket are just going to continue facing straight, all the way through contact. Again, I want you to watch this in full speed because if you watch through the point of contact and watch her arm, you can really get a sense for how rigid everything is. See how her arm really just kind of locks down and gets really straight? That's because for whatever reason, nobody told her to do this. We all have bad habits like this that just kind of pop up. Her body is stopping that release and stopping that rotation, aka the pronation of her forearm and her hand and her racket face. Great tennis players don't just stretch and release their arm and their shoulder on their serve. They do it on their forehand too for smooth, effortless power. And if you'd like to learn how to do that step by step, make sure to go to forehandpower.com and pick up my free step-by-step coaching that will show you drills that you can copy at home with a basket of balls. You don't need a partner or a coach or a ball machine. And I'll show you how to add 15 miles per hour to your forehand in just 15 minutes of practice on your local courts. I want to show you how to use your entire body smoothly and powerfully. So go to forehandpower.com and sign up for the free training right now. In the first part of our training, I'm just going to simply guide her through the entire process of each of the different positions of her serve. Even though she has a very athletic, natural serve up until the point of contact, she just really struggled with this idea of letting the racket continue to turn out to the side. The second drill we did together, I'm now totally hands off, and she's starting to get the feel for the mechanics now. And I'm asking her to just smoothly and continuously go through a bunch of shadow swings. And you can see she's doing a great job now. And occasionally she's just trying to figure this out. And she thinks it's this excessive kind of, I guess lateral to the court, kind of helicopter, twisting of the racket. But I'm just kind of letting her keep going through it because occasionally not occasionally, but mostly she's doing it like this, which is what we're actually looking for. This transition between the strings facing to the left and then forwards and then to the right without any kind of pauses or hitches or tightening down or clamping down of her arm. After she showed me a bunch of good high quality shadows, I gave her some balls and I told her, okay, let's alternate now between shadow swings and hits. And this is literally her very first hit after, 4 or 5 minutes of practice. She's still getting to the good edge position. She's still unwinding to hit the ball. But on her very first practice, you can see she's still clamping down and she's not allowing the racket to release. And that's okay. A lot of times the first time that you try something new like this, it's not going to work out right away. Or maybe you'll do it correctly and the ball is going to go someplace totally different than you're used to, and you just kind of make the assumption that you did it wrong, which is a whole other topic for a whole other video. But as she tries some of these, she gets closer. On this one, there's starting to be a little bit of release with the racket, and I'm having her continue to do some shadows, practice, and then keep trying. And she's still holding on. And then eventually, after some more shadows and some more hits, she finally gets to this one. This is her very first time actually letting the racket release, her forearm and her shoulder. So she's going through the full range of motion now, from her hand and her strings facing towards the side of her head to her racket facing towards the box at contact. And now this is absolutely critical. From here to the position everybody focuses on, this one, this is a matter of letting the racket move, not making it move. And I'll talk more about this in a second, but from here to here should be a passive movement, not some kind of like bolt on, like flip or like twist of the racket that you add on after you've hit the ball. This should be a natural byproduct of all of this stretch and stored energy here, and the process of unwinding and hitting the ball. There should be a natural continuation of just letting the racket continue to twist and turn. Now, I'm putting that in air quotes because it was very much not natural for her. There's two different definitions for the word natural, okay? Definition number one is the correct biomechanically sound way of moving the body and swinging the racket, the most natural way of swinging the racket. Then the second definition is what feels right to you. And what feels right to me is not always the most biomechanically sound way of moving our body and swinging the racket. And so just because it doesn't feel right doesn't mean that it's not the best way of swinging our body. And closing the gap between those two things, in a nutshell, is the hardest part about getting better and better at tennis. Before we get to the last drill, I've got a warning for you. As she continued to try to make this happen, let me show you what it looks like when somebody doesn't let it happen and instead they make it happen. So she's in the same great stretch position back behind her, great racket drop, great edge position. She's unwinding to contact. And now watch what happens after contact, how her hand is going to fully twist and invert the racket and invert her hand. This is a result of her forcing this twist. And she's like she is trying to make it happen instead of letting it happen. So my mantra to her as we went through this training and practice and like swing after swing was relax the hand and let it happen. Don't make it happen, but let the turn happen. And the danger here, if you force it, is injury. If you force this twist to happen, I think she had two in a row here. Yeah, this one not as bad, but a little bit of excessive, like over twisting of the hand and the shoulder. If you add a lot of intensity to that, it's just a matter of time. You're either going to hurt your shoulder or you're going to hurt your forearm really badly when you do a whole lot of those with a lot of intensity. And this is why it's a big mistake to just focus on that last, 90-degree turn of the hand and try to like make it happen. It should be a continuation of the momentum of your racket and letting it release as opposed to forcing some kind of position just because it's cool that Roger Federer and Serena Williams hit their serve that way. Now it's time to just simply get a lot of repetition. She's done enough volume. She's familiar with the feeling. She's starting to get the hang of this in terms of letting it happen and not making it happen. And so I want you to watch these swings now and look at how much more fluid and smooth. Keep your eyes right around the point of contact and watch how much more natural the movement of the racket in her hand and her arm looks now compared to her original serve. Look at how locked down her arm looks through the point of contact. And now look at these where she's now correctly pronating, how much more fluidly and smoothly the racket is moving and her arm and her hand are moving. This is how you unlock a lot of racket head speed and a lot of potential for power and for spin. If you follow these exercises, I know you're going to get a lot of success. And if you follow the exercises at forehandpower.com, I know you'll be able to unlock a lot of racket head speed, power, and spin on your forehand as well. Make sure to go to forehandpower.com to pick up that free coaching. Thanks so much for watching today. I hope it was super helpful, and I'll catch you in the next video.